G'day guys, welcome to Storm Warning, our second in the last term's studies and daily reading notes. I hope you enjoyed the giving series, the short series that it was, and I hope you found it helpful. And this one, 2 Thessalonians, we're looking at this for 6 weeks. It's going to be very helpful. It's quite a powerful book, quite a striking book, and I know you're going to enjoy it. Well, let's get into the studies that we've got for this one, the first one. It's basically an introduction to the whole series, so how we can understand the book generally, what it's about, and getting people the idea of this one is just to get people thinking about what's this 2 Thess about, how is it going to be helpful for me, what are the big ideas that it touches on. So hopefully it'll be a good intro to that for you and for your guys. So let's have a look. The first question, spend 5 to 10 minutes thinking about with your people what happened in 1 Thessalonians, because it's probably been a while, about 6 weeks or so since you last looked at it, and just be a good time to recap. For example, you might be thinking, who was it written by? You remember who was it to? Who was it from? What were the big issues that were addressed in the letter? What were the things that people found helpful from the series? That was a really good way to start, and give people the opportunity just to share a little bit. You remember that during the ministry of Paul and Silas and Timothy, the Thessalonian church grew, and persecution broke out, and Paul and his companions had to leave the Thessalonian church while it was still a little church, and this is like a background info for it. Now, Paul was anxious about the Thessalonians, and he sent Timothy, you'll remember, to find out how they were going and to strengthen them and encourage them in their faith. And that 1 Thessalonians was written on Timothy's return to Paul with the good news that the Thessalonians were going well. They were standing firm in the Lord, and Paul was overjoyed and wrote to encourage them to continue in their faith. So what we're going to do tonight is start by reading the whole of 2 Thessalonians. Now this is going to take a while. It's not too long, 3 chapters. But really good way just to get an overview for the book, and it's excellent when we've got a book that's manageable to be able to do that. And then ask the questions as you go through, maybe even before you read it, and say, look, think about this as you go through. What strikes you as about the book as a whole, or the letter as a whole? There's plenty of things that are going to strike people. As I said, it's a pretty striking book. What things that stand out, ideas that are repeated, maybe suggest these things to people. How does it relate to 1 Thessalonians? Because there's key things here. And the key theme or key ideas that get brought up are persecution, the day of the Lord, the return of Christ, the end times, the man of lawlessness. Then also talks about standing firm under persecution, and living godly lives as we await the day of the Lord. So they're big things that come out of that. And there'll be all sorts of things that strike people as they read it. You'll find that as you read it yourself. It's quite a powerful letter as we see the things that are happening to the Thessalonians, the things that are going to happen to us as the people of God and in God's world. Then we move on to the second one, which will probably come out of that. What questions do you have about the letter? So if people bring up questions in the first one, just say, look, hold on to that question, we'll look at it next. So if the first bit where they say, what strikes you about the letter as a whole? If it brings up some questions, you can use them in the second thing. What questions do you have about the letter? Now that's just an opportunity to raise big issues that people will want to have answered, but tonight's not the night to answer them. So that's going to be a little difficult for people, but it will be good for giving a taste for what's to come as we dive into each section in a more detailed way in the later weeks. So there's going to be questions about the circumstances of the Thessalonians, what's going on for them, big questions about what chapter 2 is all about with the man of lawlessness and the return of Jesus, and who's holding who back and all those things. And the idea here is to get people excited, interested in the letter, without actually answering their questions. So maybe you want to jot that down on a piece of paper, those things, or people can do it in their daily reading notes in the spare pages in there. They might want to jot down big questions for them and be saying to them, look, these are the things you're going to be thinking about during the next 6 weeks and in sermons as well. Then ask the question, after your initial reading, what does the letter seem to be about? Generally, overall, what's the letter seem to be about? That's a chance for people to pick up what they think the general purpose and content of the letter is. It'll be helpful to have that in mind, the general purpose, the general content of the letter in the weeks ahead. And because when we look at this book, it's just like in a storm warning, it's a call to action for God's people facing hardship and persecution. And it's a reminder that an end is coming to all our troubles, all our hardships. And to those who persecute the people of God, there will be judgment, and that's when Jesus returns. And so it's a book that seems to enable the Thessalonians and us as well to persevere, knowing that God will make all things right. And until that day, we have responsibility as God's people to live according to His word in a way which is pleasing to Him. So lots of hopefully helpful things will come out of that, what your initial reading think it's about. Then reread verse 1 to 4. That's the passage we're going to be preaching on this week. It's not very big, obviously, and so we're just going to ask, what 5 minutes amongst yourselves, what do you discover about the authors of the book? What do you discover about the positive things that are happening to the Thessalonians through the Thessalonians? And what are the struggles that the church is facing? Because it brings up a few things there. Pretty obvious when you look down that it's written by Paul, Silas, and Timothy. They obviously love them in the Lord. We see that they the positive things, that their love for each other is increasing. Paul and Timothy and Silas are happy to boast about them because they persevere in their faith, and under all the persecutions and in trials, they're enduring those, and they're continuing on, persevering under that, and they give thanks to God because He's doing that in them, and their faith is continuing to grow more and more. So really good things. The struggles, obviously, is the persecutions that they're facing and the difficulties that they're facing day by day. Question 6, what persecution and trials do Christians face today, both locally and globally? I thought that would be helpful as we think about our situation. How different is it to theirs? How similar is it to theirs? Thinking about the difficulties it is about being a Christian in Western society, but also the difficulties for other Christians throughout the world in different areas. And so I'll put a link there to a website which talks some more about the persecuted church. Might give you some helpful information there about what's going on in other churches around the world if you wanted to have a bit of an idea. Question 7 then. So it's a pretty broad topic this week, and just getting people into the book. Question 7, what can you learn personally from the Thessalonians' response to their trials for yourself? And so when you face difficult trials and possibly even persecution, how might you respond similarly to them? Just be thinking especially about those verses from 2 to 4. Because when we face hardship in the world, we're aware that, as with them, that Jesus is going to make everything right. And that spurs us on to share the warning with our friends that Jesus is going to come make things right. But it also gives us clarity about what the world's all about. It's about enduring until Christ returns. We have an awesome God that loves His children, and He's going to bring justice for the hardship and injustice that we face. And until then, we're called to live in the truth of the gospel and trust in God, trust in His Savior Jesus and His plan for us. And then pray. And pray about what you've learned and been challenged by in the study. Guys, just my tip this week is just keep remembering, and we want to go big picture, down to the details, then back to the big picture, and in and out again. That's hermeneutics, how the Bible works. So we're going to be looking at this week at the big picture of 2 Thessalonians. You want to be thinking how it fits in the New Testament, how it fits into the whole Bible. But then we go down to the small, find out the details of what's going on, then look again. How does that fit into this chapter? How does this fit into the book? And we want to keep doing that so we can understand the Bible better from the details and understand the details better from the Bible as a whole. And we just keep thinking through that. So when you look through, just keep remembering 2 Thessalonians is each little section you look at is part of a full letter, which is part of the whole New Testament, which is part of the whole Bible. Keep thinking about how that might impact. Alright guys, hope you have a great week, and I'll see you next week.